everyone, it's Emily here, the founder and CEO of Boston Up. I am so excited that you have decided to join me for tonight's totally free webinar. We're going to spend some time together talking about the best kept secret for work-life balance, in particular this season. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up my slides so you can see all the visuals we got going on. And I want to first ask you to weigh in right now with where you're tuning in from. Share your name in the comments below if you're watching this on bossedup.com, or in the comments if you're watching directly on our YouTube channel. Tell us your name, where you're tuning in from tonight, and why you decided to make this investment in yourself. I know everybody is so busy these days. We've got a lot of other things we could be doing with our Tuesday evening. And we've been running around here at Boston Up because I just flew back today from speaking at the University of South Carolina. So everybody's busy. Why have you decided to invest this time in yourself and in establishing how you can get more of that desirable work-life balance, whatever that means to you? And we're going to talk about that in a second tonight with us. This is going to be super duper interactive, so go ahead and ask questions, weigh in, share where you're tuning in from in the comments section below if you're watching on bossedup.org. And as always, you know me, I love me some Twitter, so give me a shout out on Twitter. Our amazing team member, my amazing team member Victoria, is here with me tonight. The two of us are teaming up to monitor Twitter live and really make sure that your questions are answered. So give me a shout out on Twitter to let me know you're there. Oh my goodness, there's so many people who are chiming in already. I'm loving it. Here we go. Let's dive right in. So I want to give you a heads up. We got a lot of real talk ahead of us, as usual, here with Boston Up. What we're going to cover today is this. First, what the hell is work-life balance anyway? What do I even mean by that? And why is it such a buzzword on the internet and such a clickbaity title that got you all to this webinar today? What does it really mean, and how can we get more of it in our lives? Second, we're going to talk about why is it so hard to attain? Why is it such a seemingly impossible point of or finish line to arrive at? And how can we use 4 core strategies that we can put to use right now to start getting more of that work-life balance mojo in our lives? I'm all about the practical, tactical, instantly applicable strategies that you can use right now to just make your life easier and get on the path to sustainable success. And yes, as I've been telling you this entire time, we are going to end with the #1 best kept secret for work-life balance and how you can get in on that secret and make it happen now, starting right now. So I want to make sure that everybody has what they need, so continue to shout us out on Twitter. Our our username, our Twitter handle is @BossedUpORG, so keep that conversation going. Chime in right now to let me know you're tuning in. And for those of you who want to learn more, hint, hint, about the Boston Up 2016 retreat that I have been talking a lot about lately, I just want to give you a heads up that yes, we are going to tackle more of that today, and there will be time at the end to ask questions explicitly about the retreat, because all of this is related, folks. So buckle up, get ready, ask questions, and share your thoughts throughout so I can make this as relevant as it can possibly be for you and applying the stuff to your life right here, right now. So first of all, who the hell am I, right? I'm so excited to see a bunch of y'all are Boston Up Bootcamp alums, so we've already gotten to know each other really well. But here's what you should know if this is your first webinar, your first opportunity to hang with me online. I started Boston Up 2.5 years ago because this was the organization that I needed prior to that, not too long ago myself. I am a lifelong overachiever, and like so many of you, like so many women in particular, I got really good. I really honed my skills as a student when it came to perfecting, performing, and pleasing everybody else around me. But unfortunately, I learned in the first couple of years after college, after that final grade was handed out, that final report card was given to me, I learned that those skills, the skills that get you A's in school, are not the same skills that set you up to kick ass professionally over the long term. So I was a campaign organizer. I had the privilege and opportunity to step up in a leadership role at a young age as the youngest state director in the country, serving on behalf of President Obama during the 2009 health reform fight. I was up in Rhode Island. And during that time, I had some measurable successes. I trained, recruited, managed 200 plus volunteers. I felt really connected to the cause-oriented work that I had. And to be honest with you, I was just ready to work hard. That's what I wanted to do, right? That's what I'd been training for my entire academic career. I wanted to make use of this great privilege and opportunity that was handed to me in the form of this role. But I don't know if any of you have ever felt this way. About 3 years in, I was exhausted and simply tired of feeling tired all the damn time. I'd gone from being a college athlete to not having any regular form of exercise in my life for 3 years. I was chronically underslept. I had basically gone 3 years without taking a lunch break, much less eating lunch. I wasn't even taking a break at all throughout the course of the workday, and I was glued to my BlackBerry and my iPhone and felt like I had to prove myself worthy time and time again for the job that I had already been given. I'm struggling with the imposter syndrome, a term that's been popularized by Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In back in 2013, but it's a real psychological affectation that affects both men and women and makes it hard for us to internalize our successes. So during that time, I burnt the F out, as I said in that slide there. I'm not proud of that fact, but what I realized years later is that my story is not unique. I found myself parked at a crosswalk driving through my alma mater, Brown University, in Providence, Rhode Island, and I was stopped at that crosswalk watching a bunch of college students roll their bags home for Thanksgiving break. And all I wanted to do, to be completely honest, I was just filled with a jealous rage. All I wanted to do was walk out of my car at that very moment and join those students in rolling my bag home and give myself permission to take a break. Because what I realized then is that I was waiting for the end of a semester that was never going to arrive. I think a lot of us catch ourselves on that hamster wheel, on that rat race type pace, because we feel like that's the new normal. That's the economy we find ourselves in. We want to be seen as ambitious. We want to put ourselves on the leadership track. And I'm not talking about being lazy here. I'm talking about being productive over the long term. I realized then that if I wanted to have a career with real impact, not over the next 3 weeks, but over the next 3 decades, then I would have to change the way I was working. Because it wasn't working, quite frankly. So I changed everything in my life. That was the beginning of a 2-year, very rocky road of uprooting my life, finding a different kind of job. Frankly, that job disappeared at the end of the campaign anyway. Such as campaign life. When you actually pass the policies you're trying to pass, your job disappears sometimes. And I found myself serving in a totally different role in a totally different city and advocating for myself in a new way. Advocating for myself in the same way that I'd advocated for the causes and the campaigns that I believed in. So let's get back to those visuals here, because that is what led me, that sort of epiphany from the rock bottom of burnout is what led me to start Bossed Up a few years later, because I had been transformed and sort of amazed by how quickly life can transform, life can change when you actually give yourself permission to advocate for yourself and step up into the role of boss of your own life. And yes, it also led to some funky hair choices. And that's what you're seeing tonight. Now, we here at Bossed Up bring together work, love, and wellness. That's a huge component of what we do here at Bossed Up, because frankly, we can't talk about what's going on in our professional lives without acknowledging that our personal lives absolutely have an impact. That's why it's our mission here to bring it all together, to help you, frankly, get it together and craft a sustainable career path. One that is full of ambition and still helps you get to where you want to go, but not at the cost of your personal sustainability, not at the cost of your health and happiness. And our manifesto, the Bossed Up manifesto you're seeing here, it really spells it all out, because I'm not talking about managerial theory or hierarchies when I say be a boss. What we're talking about is being the boss of your own life, stepping up into a leadership role in and of yourself first, which enables you to be a better leader for those around you. So if you haven't checked out our manifesto, get your free download at bossedup.com right now. Now, today, we're talking about work-life balance. So how does that all come together when it comes to putting work, love, and wellness together? What the heck is one way to say that, but WTF do we mean by work-life balance anyway? I get so annoyed, and let me just get this out of the way. Work-life balance is a phrase that makes many of us roll our eyes. I totally get that. It is tired, it is overused, and frankly, it sort of positions work in constant conflict with your life as though they are a zero-sum game in a way that I don't believe in. And guess what? You all told me that this morning when I posted this image to our Instagram account, BossedUp.org, and you said, listen, Emily, I don't like work-life balance. I call it blending, or I like to think that, work-life balance in the United States is particularly challenging because of the systemic factors. Y'all are super on top of this. You're totally hip to the fact that work-life balance is not the best way to describe it, but it's a term we see everywhere. Why is that the case? Why are we seeing this phrase work-life balance? I want to hear from you on this. So give me a tweet right now, because we're monitoring it live in real time. Why do you think this term, however imperfect it is, has stuck around? I believe it's so omnipresent because it's so symbolic of the industrial revolution that we are all living right now. Things have changed dramatically over the past 20 years when it comes to how the average human being interacts with our work. In the past, the workday was clear. You clock in, you clock out. Not much was going on when you were clocked out, and there was a pretty clear understanding that those boundaries were uniform, expected. We all knew when not much was happening, and that was a totally normal expectation, right? Not so much anymore. The new normal now is that, yeah, we've got more flexibility thanks to technology like our Blackberries and iPhones and our email inboxes. So it's not as rigid as those boundaries were in the past, even though those rigid boundaries were pretty much guaranteed to be there. Nowadays, many of us can work anywhere, anytime, especially those in the information economy. And we also know that our colleagues can possibly work anywhere, anytime. Our boss can text us on a Saturday, something I try really hard not to do. But it's a habit, right? Just that easy accessibility to work makes perfectionistic overworkers like us want to work all the time. That means that work piles up even when we're not there. Even when we don't think other people should be working, they can, and our inboxes, when we come back to them on a Monday morning, can be ready and overflowing already. The new normal, that new added flexibility, comes with its perks, right? It means that we can, in some instances, have the flexibility of setting our own schedules or teleworking or getting things done on a Sunday afternoon if we want to take Monday off. But it also means that just because we can, there is a tendency for a new normal series of expectations to fall on top of that. Does anybody out there that's chiming in or tuning in tonight feel those expectations? How do you know when you're feeling that unspoken expectation that work is happening even not within the hours of 9 to 5 or 8 to 6? This is the symbol. These are some of the symptoms of the Industrial Revolution. And quite frankly, I think that part of that revolution that we find ourselves in has led to a burnout work culture. A burnout work culture that is that shows up all the time in the way that we communicate about work, the way that we showcase our value. And some of those symptoms are stupid little things that we pick up on in pop culture, like the busy brag, that idea that being really busy all the time is something that's rewarded or championed or something we want to sort of slip into everyday conversation. Ariana Huffington has a great little TEDx talk she delivered at TEDx Women once, in which she described how this busy brag manifests in the Washington, D.C. circles in particular. She said when she was going to make breakfast meetings with some of her colleagues, with some of her people in the political journalistic space, they would propose a time like 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. for a coffee, and they'd come back with, oh, well, you know, I'll already have gotten in a game of tennis then, and I'll have been at the office with, you know, so-and-so doing my early morning meetings. But yeah, if you want to chime in at 8 a.m., that works for me. That's the busy brag in action. The sleep-deprived saint is the bragger or the sort of offhand comment about how few hours we're sleeping nowadays, which can be really scary stuff. I actually heard someone just this afternoon in the airplane on my way home from South Carolina who was saying how she loves this app that monitors her exercise and her sleep patterns, and how her average sleep over the past month and a half, because she's been so busy at work, has been 3.5 hours. And for me, I was alarmed by just overhearing that, thinking about what is going on in her short-circuited mental capacity that doesn't have that renewal time that's so essential for the health of our brains and our bodies. We've also seen epidemic levels and rises of stress and anxiety. We're working longer hours than ever before. And all of this leads to the martyrdom mindset, which permeates this whole entire burnout work culture, this idea that success somehow requires suffering. Now, if we're in this burnout work culture weirdness, this new normal together, what I've realized and what we really preach, frankly, here at Bossed Up, that in a system that is broken, a system that is lacking the basic protections that used to exist for everyday average workers, you have to be the boss of your own life. And trust me, that doesn't give me any great pleasure to say, because ideally we should have a system that's not broken. But here are some of the stats behind that. We Americans in particular are operating in an exceptionally, extraordinarily burnt out work culture. We work more late nights and weekends than any nation. The risk of burnout, stress levels are on the rise here in the United States. They've been on the rise of a total of 18% for us women over the past 30 years. And yes, gender still does make a difference, because we women still today, this is a measurement that came from a study in which they measured amongst men and women who live in households in which women and men are both working full-time. Women are doing, on average, 2 times the amount or twice the amount of housework and childcare duties. So if you're a bossed up mama on tonight's call, I want to hear from you in particular. What does it mean to you in terms of carving out time for yourself? What does that look like? What does burnout work culture mean, not just in terms of how it affects our lives at work, but how does it affect our lives at home? So if this is the case, I'm not here to depress us, right? I'm not here to bitch and moan about the status quo, quite frankly, although we could be here all night doing that together. I like to keep things pragmatic. And yeah, call me crazy, I'm an optimist. What can we do about this? Obviously, we need system change. We need organizations, individuals, and yes, public policy to all get it together so we can create new systems in this new normal that protect everyday workers. Basic things that the rest of the world has already figured out, things like paid parental leave policy and protected time, health and safety leave time and vacation time protected for all workers. All of that good stuff that the United States is still catching up on. But as someone who used to work full-time in politics, I'm not patient enough to lobby Congress full-time and expect them to do something about it. While I applaud those of you out there who are doing that, thank you for doing that work. I think it's important, I think it's critical that we put pressure on electing the right people and having those people pass the right legislation to change this burnout work culture we find ourselves in. What can we do as individuals right now to turn things around? And I'm inspired, by Sheryl Sandberg, who frankly has a lot of privilege wrapped up in this statement. And I know that Sheryl and the whole lean in message has been hit a little bit when it comes to, it's easier to do all of this when you're a millionaire, woman at the top of the economic food chain. However, the messages in lean in can absolutely be applied to all of us, and are at least worth discussing and informing and reigniting this conversation. This is one of my favorite quotes from her. We cannot change what we're not aware of. And once we are aware, we can't help but change. So tonight, right here, right now that we've established what work-life balance really is and why in our today's burnout work culture, this stuff is so hard to apply to your daily life, I want to get clear on how we can raise our own awareness of what this problem is, how it manifests in our daily personal lives, and then get to those core 4 strategies for solving this. Burnout is defined by the World Health Organization, and here this is sort of summarized from the American Psychological Association, as a diagnosable mental health disorder. Burnout is one of those words that we hear a lot in journalism and in our common conversational vocabulary to just describe us being exhausted or tired or overstretched. But really, burnout is a very serious clinical disorder that can lead to even more serious disorders down the road. Mental health disorders like anxiety, depression, stress-related disorders like eating disorders and self-harm, all kinds of really, really challenging issues that I don't want our folks to face. The good news is it's actually pretty instantly resolvable. Burnout is not something that takes a ton of time or effort or energy necessarily to turn it around. There's no medication required. It's really about owning your agency, taking back your life and stepping up in that leadership role as the boss of your life. But first, let's clarify burnout as what it means. It's a state of chronic stress. Anyone here relate to that? I want to hear if that feels like your life, like your workplace. Is chronic stress something that you feel like is a part of your life, not just over the past 2 weeks, but over the past 2 months, 2 years? What does that feel like for you? And here are some of the manifestations for how chronic stress can actually show up in your life. Physical and emotional exhaustion, cynicism and detachment, that feeling like, screw it, I can't make a change here anyway, so I'm gonna just detach completely and feel like if I have no power here or my voice doesn't matter here, then I'm not, I can't make any change. I can't affect change. Of course, I'm not going to really care anymore. And finally, feelings of ineffectiveness and a lack of accomplishment. The reason I find burnout so particularly appalling and tragic, really, is because burnout is most likely to affect the really high achieving, dedicated, hardworking, high performers in the office. Burnout takes people who care so much and leaves them like a shell of their former self, unable to care at all because you're too exhausted, you're too overwhelmed, and you've just been broken down to feeling like you can't actually affect change in your life whatsoever. I remember what that felt like. I remember feeling like I was in a really toxic relationship that I'd gotten into too deep. I'd moved in. I'd committed myself. I was signed a new lease with him. I was 2 years into this relationship that was leaving me feeling burnt out, was part of my whole burnout process when I was working up in politics. And I felt like I couldn't, even though I cared so much about this relationship and about my life, I felt like I was sitting in the passenger seat of my own life. That's what's scary about this. It can take a hardworking, kick-ass person and just totally deflate them. And so I want you to recognize if you're feeling any of these symptoms, it is not a personal problem. This is not you. This is part and parcel with the culture, the really toxic, stressed out, hyper-connected culture that we are all operating under. We are living in a demented burnout culture that affects the hardest working and the most committed amongst us. So when exactly does burnout strike? I want to review the core 4 areas or sort of symptoms to watch out for. And when I'm going through these 4 in greater detail, and by the way, these are not the strategies. I'm going to get to those core 4 strategies that you can employ tonight, starting tonight, after we review burnout in greater detail. I want to make sure that we are totally and completely aware of how burnout affects us. So when I'm going through all 4 of these, I want you to think critically and start writing down which of these speaks to you and when do you feel triggered? When do you feel like these burnout symptoms or sort of when these burnout triggers are present in your life, at work or at home? So burnout can most likely or is more likely to affect you when we are lacking in agency, purpose, rest, and community. Not when we have all of these, and not when we have 1 but not 3 others, but when you are affected, these are sort of the warning signs to watch out for: when you're lacking agency, when you're lacking purpose, when you're lacking rest, when you're lacking in community. And let's break that down. When you lack agency, you might feel like you're not in control over how you do your job. Maybe you have a micromanaging boss, or maybe you have a micromanaging parent who's telling you how to live your life or how to do your job or which grad school is the right one for you. When you're lacking agency, you lack autonomy. You lack the ability to make independent decisions. And it almost feels like life is just happening to you. It feels like you're not really affecting your life. You're not leading your life. It's just something that's rolling out before you. And just like that metaphor I used earlier, when I felt burnt out, I felt like I was sitting in the passenger seat. Like my life was passing me by on the highway and someone else had the wheel. Because I sure as hell didn't feel like I had any control, like I had any choice in the matter. Choice and control and power, those were things that other people had, that smarter people had, that harder working people had, that wealthier people had. And me, I didn't have any power. I didn't have any choice. And it was because at that time in my life, I was waiting for the permission to take the reins. I was waiting to feel like if I made a decision on my own, it would still make everybody else happy and make everybody else like me, right? That's what we do so well. That's how we're conditioned as women, to be nice, to be caretakers, to be sweet, to be coy, not to be, loud, brassy leaders per se. So that was part of what I was struggling with. I don't know if you've ever felt this way. Wow, I'm sort of reading some of the tweets that are coming in on this. Thank you so much for those who are chiming in. Let's get to the second warning sign for burnout. You lack purpose. When you lack purpose, hey, you might have agency present in your life, but when you're lacking purpose, you just feel like, yes, I can dial it in at work, I can make the big bucks, I can do my job well, but man, my heart is not in this. And ironically, I didn't burn out after that first bout of burnout that I had, but when I got my life together and I moved down to DC and I took a better paying consulting job that allowed me to leave the office at 6 p.m. every night, and frankly, I pretty much demanded that I left the office at 6 p.m. every night because I was rediscovering my physical strength and getting back into volleyball for the first time in 5 years and having a personal life for a change. I was good at my job. I got paid well at my job. I sort of liked the people I was working for and with because they were great candidates and great campaigns. But man, my passion and my purpose were not being fulfilled. I knew my heart wasn't in it. I knew this wasn't going to be sustainable over the long term. And I didn't feel any urgency to get out because that's when I started to put the wheels in motion to really create Bossed Up and grow it into what it is today. So when you lack purpose, you just feel like you might not be able to get behind your organization's mission, or maybe the kind of work you're doing just doesn't quite feel like what your purpose is here on this planet. And maybe you're doing well, but you're not doing good. And there's some really surprising social science, cognitive science, and behavioral psychology behind feeling purpose-driven in your life and in your work. And let me just put a little asterisk on this conversation right now by saying our millennial generation in particular has put a hell of a lot of pressure on ourselves to turn our passions and our purpose into our paycheck. That is not necessarily what I'm saying here. I know incredible people, and I'll name one, my mother, who is a hell of a labor and delivery nurse. She's an amazing nurse. She works 12-hour shifts on her feet still in a hospital up in Hartford, Connecticut, where I'm from. And she's a great nurse, right? She does really well. She takes her job really seriously. She lives to be a caretaker, and she does a great job. But her purpose is not fulfilled in her 9 to 5. And by 9 to 5, I mean 7 to 7, right? Her purpose wasn't something that felt totally fulfilled through her work. So she ended up starting and helping lead a medical mission trip that she takes down to, it's a nonprofit organization that does these medical mission trips down in Haiti, 2 to 4 times a year in some of the most remote parts of the country, and brings much needed OB/GYN care for women who have otherwise almost never given that opportunity because of just how remote a part of Haiti this is. Now, your purpose does not need to be fulfilled in the same place that you get your paycheck. But if you are withering away at a great high-paying job that you can't get behind, that your heart isn't in, that you don't feel good about, that you're not doing good work in, even though you might be doing well in, there are many ways to fulfill your purpose extracurricularly, right? Whether it's the Girl Scouts or the ways that you donate to causes that you want to believe in, or the volunteer campaign work you do, whatever it might be, purpose matters for long-term motivation. And if you're a geek like me who wants to read all the behavioral psychology behind this, check out Dan Pink's great book on this called Drive, D-R-I-V-E, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. All right, number 3, you lack rest. This is obviously another huge warning sign that you might be at risk for burnout. When you lack rest, it's pretty obvious. You never take a break, you don't get enough sleep, and you don't take vacation. Anybody feeling a little guilty about that? Does anybody see themselves in this slide? It's my earnest, my heart of hearts, I hope this isn't you. But I feel like we've all been there. And I just want to make sure that we acknowledge that the basic physiological needs that we have to have met, things like food, water, sleep, and shelter, somewhere along the past 30 years, we stopped valuing those basic needs. Even though anyone who's taken Psychology 101 knows that Maslow's hierarchy of needs has to be met. You've got to get those basic needs met in order to ascend to a higher level of thinking. By that, I mean, if you want to do really critical, analytical, intensive, challenging work, you got to get enough sleep. You've got to get rest in. And just because we now have computer screens that can stare back at us for 48 hours straight doesn't mean that our bodies are programmed in the same way. We have to acknowledge the real physiological pulsing between intensive, focused intervals of work and rest and renewal that our bodies need. And again, if you want to hear more about this, I'm pretty obsessed with Tony Schwartz, who wrote some really great books. He's authored a bunch of books now, but his organization, The Energy Project, does really tremendous work on exactly how to build more rest into your life. And finally, the 4th key warning sign that you may be suffering from burnout. This one was really huge for me when I was a young professional just out of college, is lacking community. I don't know about you, but when I first graduated college and I went off to go save the world through my campaign work, which is pretty much how I felt about my job, and I think so many of us sort of leave college, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to conquer the world, I thought that I was too busy. And frankly, I'll admit this, I thought it was too important, that my work was too important to make time for friends. Wow, was that wrong? Wow, was I totally misguided on that? Because I, at the time, didn't have a support system. I started to feel lonely and question my leadership decisions. It started to sort of eat away at my identity as a leader, as someone who is a strong, moral compass and who had a strong sense of direction and drive and what I wanted to do. And I wasn't spending time with my closest friends from college, because all of a sudden I'd gone from being in a dining hall environment or in the dorm room or shared, living arrangements through our group house to not being able to just run into them by chance. It actually took effort and energy and time and planning to keep up with my best gal pals and guy friends and family and siblings who I love dearly. Friends and family and community is not a luxury. It is another basic human necessity. And it's something that even CEOs and Fortune 500 leaders need. And those who think that they don't are either misguided or sociopaths, quite frankly, according to my psychologist and psychiatrist friends, right? If you lack community, it's not just bad for your life and for your heart and for your head and for your soul, in my opinion. It's also bad for your long-term viability in your career. It's part of good mental health care, which is part and parcel of what we all need to show up fully in the workplace. So a lack of, let's just quick review, agency, purpose, rest, and community. Those are things that we let go of without even realizing we were holding on to. I love this quote from Alice Walker because it speaks to just how much power we actually have in this crazy ass burnout work culture that we're operating in. The most common way people give up their power, says Alice, is by thinking they don't have any. Now, yes, we need big national reforms. Yes, we need better policies and workplace, bosses who actually believe in work-life balance. Hell yes. But we have a lot more power than we think we do. And I just want to make sure that we can start off tonight by saying, I'm going to throw that victim mindset out the window because I do have more power than sometimes I take advantage of. And we can take personal steps in our lives to bring back community, rest, purpose, and agency into our lives. And let's talk about some of the core 4 strategies that you can take right now to actually build that back up. Before I do that, though, I'm going to exit my slides for just a moment. I want to check in with y'all. Here is my little window. I want to ask you right now if you have any questions or clarifications thus far. I know I've been talking a lot at you. We have so many of you tuning in and chiming in. I'm seeing the tweets coming in real time. And Victoria, thank you so much for monitoring all of this. Let me know right now, Victoria, if there are any big questions that have come up that we should be answering. And all of y'all make your questions known right now if there are any clarifications you want. And then we're going to get to those core 4 strategies you can apply to your life right now. One thing I want to share from Tonya, thank you so much, Tanya, for chiming in on Twitter. She says, I worked 51 days in a row at my last job. Amazing. Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. That is not healthy, and we have to ask ourselves why, right? I have to say, Tanya, you're probably not alone in that. I know lots of us have put in that kind of time before, and it's wild that in some places they would wear that as a badge of honor. But thank you for sharing vulnerably, sister, in that. But also, we got to change that, right? Because I'm sure that by day 51, you're not as fresh, let's say, as you might have been if we had taken a bunch of days off. Let's see. Jennifer's saying, you have no idea how much I needed to hear all of this. Burnout is something I've been struggling with, but I love what I do. That is such a common thing I hear, Jennifer. Thank you so much for weighing in. I love what I do too, right? And Victoria can attest to this. I have to remind myself time and again at Boss Stop not to burn out fighting burnout, right? She's like laughing at this. And it's totally true, right? We have to be our sort of guardians of our lives. Even when we love the work we're doing, we will be better at it if we take care of our basic needs first. Victoria, is there anything we need to address other than that? Are there any other burning questions or comments you want to share? Cool. Awesome. Great. Stacy here says, I felt chronic stress to the point where I got shingles at 24 years old. It took an ER visit. to realize I needed a change. Thank you so much for chiming in, Stacy. I can't tell you how many people I hear from who had serious medical scares, and I just feel like, knock on wood, lucky that it didn't take anything that drastic. We all have our scares. We all have our baggage. But I like to think sometimes, I ask myself, would I allow my best friend to treat herself that way? Would I treat a child in the way that I'm treating myself right now, right? We give them the juice box and we take the double macchiato. We have to ask ourselves, why is it that we're treating children and basic strangers in a way that is better and kinder and more empathetic than the way we treat ourselves? And that is common, something I hear a lot. It's something that is perpetuated as women in particular. Being someone with a high level of confidence and self-worth is not exactly the best way to win friends over in the ladies' locker room. You're more likely to hear like what you hate about your body or what you hate about your life or what you're terrible at than, I love this and I feel great about that and I'm really good at that. So it's part of the way that we're socialized. It's not that we're born this way. I don't want to blame women, obviously. It's the way we're socialized to downplay our strengths. So thank you so much already, y'all, for chiming in, for weighing in, for being so awesome. Let's get to those tactics and strategies. Now that we know more about burnout and we know more about how it manifests and what those core 4 causes can be, here are some strategies to use starting right now to bring back some sanity and some personal sustainability into your life. Number 1, normalize your calendar. Now I say normalize here because sometimes we treat our calendars like they are aspirational journals, like they are vision boards instead of reality checks. So for instance, today when I put in my calendar the time it would take to get me from South Carolina to DC, but failed to account for the time it would take to get me from the airport to my office, I overestimated my capacity, right? Like I forgot to be realistic about how much we can accomplish in one day, or be realistic about how long it'll take us to get from A to B. Your calendar is your budget for life. It's literally how you choose to spend your time, your most precious resource, how to spend your life doing what. This can be, done. We can spend our lifetime by design or by default, by just letting inertia dictate for us what's going to make happen or what we're going to do. Your time and how we spend it is inherently a reflection of your values and priorities. Just like I have a lot of folks who, work in a corporate office and they'll say, we really value professional development, let's say. And I'll say, that's great. You say you value professional development. Give me your budget. I'll tell you what you value. I'll tell you what you value based on what you're spending your money on. And I can say the same thing to any individual that I work with at Boston Up and say, give me your calendar. I'll tell you what you value. You can say you value hypothetically the outdoors and being physically active, but if your calendar doesn't reflect that, it's a good reality check. It's a good opportunity to notice that gap between our aspirations and our reality. When we look at our calendars and we see only work obligations in there, or if we just have a calendar that's all about work and we don't put anything related to our personal lives on it, we can end up feeling detached, depressed, anxious, and empty, as though our meaning, all the purpose and all the fun and friends and family and all that stuff doesn't even show up on our day-to-day. Now, I'm always asking this question. I want to ask it to you now. After I do this, I speak in front of a lot of undergraduate audiences and corporate audiences that bring me in to talk about this stuff. I want to ask you, do you currently have a calendar that is just devoted to work stuff? Or do you, as the norm, is it very normal for you, and do you already have a calendar that reflects both life and work on the same page? Whether it's a written calendar or a digital one, it doesn't matter. But I want to hear from you in the comment section and on Twitter. I almost said in the Twitter land or whatever, on Twitter. Tell me what you do when it comes to how you manage your personal versus professional calendar appointments, like work appointments versus physical fitness, let's say. Okay, I'm gonna wait for a couple of results to come in here. This line right here is so important to me and is so fundamental to being bossed up instead of getting burnt out that it is smack in the middle of our Bossed Up Manifesto, which I mentioned earlier. Schedule fun and fitness as deliberately as work meetings. It might sound like a sort of trite little habit, but it is life-changing. Because when we put it on our calendar, we say that we value that time. And let me be clear here. I'm not saying invite your boss to your personal life calendar to share your yoga retreats and to let them know when you're at your Bikram class and when you're dropping your kids off at school or when you're, you know, going on date night. I'm not saying we need to share that information with everybody, but we need to put it side by side with the super important work obligations that we would never be late for. Right? Because even when, let's say, you have a meeting related to work scheduled, if it's on your calendar, even if it doesn't happen, something comes up, you have to cancel, you have to whatever, you can't make it happen. Guess what we do if it's on our calendar? We reschedule it. Duh. Obviously, right? If our fitness and fun and friends and family occupy that same space on our calendars, we are just as likely to reschedule it when we can't make it happen. So obviously we can't expect perfection, but when it's on the same calendar, we can be more mindful about how we want to spend our precious resource that is time. And so we've got Jennifer weighing in saying, my calendar is my life's budget. I love it, Jennifer. She says, an insight courtesy of Boss.org and me, Emily Aries, #work. I love that she says, color-coded entries always. So I know that y'all are big calendar junkies. Some people out there are totally awesome calendar junkies. I'm one of those people too. I love me some sticky notes and some color coding, and everyone on my team, Victoria can attest to this, knows that if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. And it can be a real game changer, because when you establish that as a new normal in your life, you can say, you can actually do two things. One, you can forecast your capacity better. You can say, hey boss, I've got more on my plate right now than I can tackle this week. Can I realign my priorities with you? I want to make sure that we've got realistic deadlines here. I want to be I want to have good foresight as a leader and look ahead and say, this is going to be a problem. Let's figure this out and be strategic about it. Let's call out the iceberg before it hits. That's the sign of a good leader. Versus just being surprised and overwhelmed when we don't get stuff done. The second thing that having this kind of scheduling in your life can do for you is that it helps you look backwards. It helps you reflect on why last week was so terrible, or why the month of February was so crazy. Or for us, it was really March, right? For Women's History Month. And by being able to look backwards and reflect as well as look forwards and project, you can be more mindful and creative about figuring out what you need in your life to keep you sustainable, quite frankly. Let's move on, because I could talk about this all night, y'all. And I want to sort of be respectful of our time, but we got a lot to cover. As I always say, this is about getting you the information you need to be the boss of your life. So number 2, core strategy that you can use right now. Turn the changes that we make to improve our life into habits. I have a book here. Actually, it's being used right now, but it's being lent from the Bossed Up Library. One of my favorite authors, Gretchen Rubin, wrote her second book after writing The Happiness Project. She wrote Better Than Before. And that book is all about habit formation. And what is interesting about habits is that it allows you to choose once, be mindful, which is like something that's such a buzzword in this space as well, right? Being intentional with how we want to make our choice. And then you don't have to choose again. The beauty of habit formation is that you choose once and then you don't need to choose again. Let me explain that. Let's use an example. Let's say I identify a trigger of mine. I'm looking at the bullet points here. This is sort of a recipe for turning a change into a habit. One of my burnout triggers is not having good friend catch-up time with all of my college friends, right? The college friends who are part of my core community. These are people I love, who inspire me, who I feel burnt out or I feel not whole if I don't catch up with these folks for a while. And months will go by and we won't talk, and that makes me really depressed and sad. And I know that talking with them and hanging out with them will make me feel better. So the second steps here might be asking for feedback from the right people. We'll talk about that again in a second. So figuring out how I can make a change and reacting mindfully by saying, you know what I want to do? I want to schedule an online hangout, much like this one, with all of my core college friends. My college besties and I are going to meet next, Tuesday night. We're going to hang out online. It's going to be great. And instead of just choosing to do that once, if that solution works, if that's a better change from my passive habit, which was making me unhappy, to my positive, mindful choice to get back together with those folks, then we turn that into an automatically recurring event. It's in our calendars. It's actually happening tonight after this webinar wraps up. And it's a thing, right? It's this monthly hangout that we know is coming up every single month, the same time, the same date, the same way. And now we've chosen once that this is something we all value, that we're going to tune in for, and then we don't need to choose again. Now I know I don't need to think, oh, I got to put that on my to-do list. I got to call my gal pal Vanessa up in Boston. I don't need to remember that anymore because it's already taken care of and I know when it's happening. That is the beauty of habit formation. So ask for feedback when you're identifying your burnout triggers from the right people. By that I mean from the people who see you as the most boss, confident version of you that you can be. Not the neurotic worriers who are going to say, you're right, that is a really big burnout trigger for you. You might freak out about that, or just, those people who are going to mirror back all of your fears and anxieties and concerns. And I can speak from experience because my loving and kind and wonderful father is just wired that way. He is neurotic, he is anxious, and when I ask him for advice, he gives me his best, most loving anxiety and worry, right? Because that's how he shows that he cares, is through worrying. That's what a lot of, I think, our parents are wired. And when you have a child, I'm sure that's a natural reaction. As I love them so much, I'm going to protect them from the world. So ask for that kind of feedback from the people who are in a position to give you the feedback you need. React mindfully by replacing the old behavior with a new one, and then turn it on autopilot, right? Whether it's a recurring calendar event or asking a loved one to help you with intervention or accountability. Accountability comes in a lot of different forms, but it sort of combines very well with that first core component, that first core strategy, which is using your calendar. I love me some recurring events, right? Every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m., Bossed Up has a Career Crush interview. All of our followers know, and if not, now you do, that every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we have an interview with a boss woman who's going to give us this great behind-the-scenes insight to how she got to where she is today, and someone whose career I really admire. That helps me say, I know what to plan for, I know what's coming. Accountability is naturally built into our structures. But calendar invites and recurring events might not be the right kind of accountability for you. You might want to set time aside for some independent reflection in a journal. You might want to set time aside to check in with your squad, your community of courage. We have a Bossed Up online Facebook group that's totally open for people like us who are ambitious women who want to craft a boss life and hold each other accountable to achieving the big goals we have, whether they're personal or professional. Having a squad or having a community of accountability like that can be absolutely priceless. I also know Stephanie, who is one of our boss women who's tuned in tonight, I believe, because I've seen you tweeting at us, Stephanie. She's a totally rad, kick-ass woman from Manhattan who's working and living in Manhattan, who's teamed up with us on events like the Bossed Up Power Hour that we hosted there with United Women in Business. She's got this great system because she shared this with me after going through one of our burnout prevention online training courses, Bossed Up for Life. And her system is when she walks into the office each day, she writes down the core things she needs to get done, like the couple of things, and correct me if I get this wrong, Stephanie, from what I recall. the top couple of things she needs to get done that day, and she sticks it to her computer monitor along with the time she is leaving the office. Now, what she probably doesn't tell her team necessarily is that she's leaving the office to get to that yoga class or to get to that spin class or to get to that happy hour or whatever it is she wants to get to. She's got places to go. By sticking that sticky note up there, she not only reminds herself, but she alerts everyone else on her team as to when they got to get to her, because she has something like 13 direct reports. And so even incredibly busy, ambitious, kick-ass leader women can use systems for accountability and to hold themselves to the standard of reflection and renewal and creating those healthy boundaries. Now, number 3, I have to say, it's not something that would have come to me naturally, but I just read a really great piece that Elizabeth Gilbert's the author of Eat, Pray, Love and Big Magic and a bunch of other great, she's an amazing author and writer. Probably know her from like Oprah's master classes and things. She wrote an awesome piece for HuffPo Women recently in which she basically gave the advice to just lighten up. We are all going to make mistakes. We are all going to let ourselves and each other down at some point or another. We women in particular have so many obligations, play so many roles to so many people we love. There's no way we're not going to drop a ball that we've been juggling. It happens. We're going to trip up. But only you can decide how you want to react to that. The comparison trap of saying, oh my God, you're such a better worker than I'll ever be, or you are the best brownie maker and Girl Scout leader, and I don't know how she does it. That whole idea of like, she is better at multitasking than I am, that stuff is a toxic habit. And it's not something that makes any of us feel better. That sort of constant pressure that we're not doing enough, or we're not good enough, or that we're not perfect enough, it isn't helping any of us. So at the end of the day, can we just lighten up a little bit? Can we forgive ourselves now for the inevitable less than perfect decisions we'll make? What a radical concept would that be? What would it look like to actually incorporate a little more play, a little more laughter, a little more lightness into our lives, right? What would that look like? And really, as you've probably picked up on by now, I'm a hyper-logical, research-driven person. So all of this stuff, while it feels good to hear Liz Gilbert sort of tell me this from her perspective, I like to see the numbers. I like to see the data. And the data bears this out, that play is good for you. Research, a growing body of research has shown that happier, healthier people work harder and are more productive. And that is starting to change the conversation about what makes for a productive, effective, and efficient workforce. It started to change the game because it's given me permission to allow myself to be more effective over the long term by investing in what makes me happy and healthy now. Not by being a martyr to the cause, not by sacrificing my life and my health and my happiness for whatever I think needs to get done by Friday at 6 p.m. This is a simple, positive, finding in the research that is so incredibly life-altering when we actually apply it to our lives. Now, here's the big kicker. And I know that some of you are looking at the clock saying, I gotta go, but don't go yet, okay? There is absolutely something that I need you to hear. Not only the secret, but I'm gonna give you a really special opportunity that I wanna make sure you hear about before you leave tonight. The best kept secret for how you can bring more work-life balance into your life right now. What do you think it is? I want you all to tweet it out at me, and I'll give you some hints here. It's something that the highest performing workers do. It's rarely discussed. It's definitely not touted at work openly. It's shown to increase focus, creativity, happiness, and a positive outlook in your life. What do you think that could possibly be? I'll give you a hint. We're helping you do it. A vacation. This is the season, y'all. This is the time of year to make sure that this thing is on your bucket list for 2016, is on your to-do list. The ultimate way to prevent burnout, the ultimate way to bring more work-life balance into your life right now is to get an amazing vacation on the books. And yes, Bossed Up has just rolled out our 2016 Bossed Up retreat in Costa Rica, which you're going to hear a lot more about in just a second. I'm going to end with a special offer just for you all for tuning in tonight. But before I tell you about our vacation, let me make this totally clear. Regardless of whether you take a vacation with me and hang out with me in Costa Rica, and me and Victoria and a bunch of other badass bosses this summer in Costa Rica, taking a vacation is important. Seriously, right? Now is the time of the year to make sure you've got one on the books. It's a key way to recharge and reset before the most intensive quarter of the year. And that's true for lots of industries, maybe not accounting. I know our accountant buddies are pretty much hustling right now. But this is a key way to recharge and reset before the fall, which can be the busiest quarter for most of us. It's obviously good for your health and happiness. And yes, it is good for your career. It is good for bringing back the focus and energy and sustainability you need to kick ass. So why do so many of us pass up our paid vacation days, if we are lucky enough to have them, or just refuse to take a vacation at all? The U.S. Travel Association freaked out when they started measuring this metric. Why are Americans, in particular, not taking a vacation? They spent a lot of money to research this, since it was absolutely affecting their industry. And this is what they found. One, the number one reason people say that they didn't take a vacation is they don't have time. Planning a vacation can be a headache. I get that. Trust me, Victoria and I get that. Taking a whole week off or whatever it is that we think we need to take a real meaningful vacation, man, it can seem impossible. And because so many of us are now working in this constantly on 24-hour work environment that is our burnout work culture, it can feel like we can't afford the time to walk away from our desk or everything is going to fall apart at work. Well, there's good news. With more all-inclusive options available than ever, you can leave the planning to the professionals and simply show up and relax. There are lots of all-inclusive options, including the Bossed Up 2016 retreat in Costa Rica, that can basically make it super easy to get on board and make this a priority and get it in your calendar without you having to lift a finger. You just got to show up and get ready for some serious R&R. Research has also shown that instead of taking one long 2-week vacation at one point in the year, you're actually better off, and this has been proven through behavioral psychology around the fact that you would have higher levels of happiness and energy and motivation and focus if you take multiple shorter vacations throughout the year. The reason for that has to do with a really interesting finding that I first stumbled upon in Gretchen Rubin's Happiness Project, which is that the act of looking forward to something, like looking forward to an amazing 4-day weekend-long retreat with your Bossed Up sisters in Costa Rica, like knowing that you're going to have that amazing thing on the calendar for August is what actually can increase your happiness levels overall and boost your energy and motivation. So having a few kick-ass vacations that are short on the calendar is actually shown to be better. I don't have the money. That's the second most common reason the U.S. Travel Association found. And trust me, y'all, I get that. I get that idea that I'm just not the kind of person. I'm not in the bracket. I'm not in the income bracket to afford a real vacation. I can't afford the vacation I want. I can't afford a vacation that's Instagram worthy. That's the kind of vacation that I will be proud to post on my social media accounts because we're so busy playing the comparison game in this country right now. But there's good news. One, there's a vacay at every budget. Even if you just take the day off once a week to have a little mini staycation, that's going to be better than not taking a vacation at all. So even if this inspires you to plan a staycation with your besties for like next Friday to just hang out and watch, a marathon of your favorite Netflix all day, do it. You're going to reap the same kind of benefits. There is truly a vacation at every budget. And second of all, I always thought that I couldn't afford a tropical vacation in an amazing country like Costa Rica or anywhere else for that matter. But it's not like I was researching it. It's not like I was really looking into it. So take the time, make it a priority. Remember, your time is your value, right? It's part of your value set. So if you really are serious about this, take the time to look into it and stay within your budget, right? There is a vacation option for everyone. All-inclusive packages like the one that we've put together for our Boston 2016 retreat also means that you're not going to be hit with a bunch of hidden costs, and it's simpler for your budgeting purposes. And finally, I've benefited from this tremendously with Bossed Up because we use our Southwest visa, and I'm not sponsored by Southwest by any means. This is not an official endorsement. But you would be really surprised how fast credit card points that you can use for everyday purchases and you can pay off right away and not carry a balance can turn into free flights, even international flights with really good flexible dates. And remember, your budget is your value set. Your budget reflects what you care about. Know yourself and know what kind of a vacation would leave you refreshed and renewed, and design one around what you can afford, because there really is something out there for everyone. And we certainly have tried our best to make it incredible and life-changing and reasonable in terms of cost. Now, the third reason I believe, the Travel Association didn't publish this, but when I've gone across the country on the Bossed Up USA tour, talking to individuals, talking to people everywhere, I have picked up on this idea that part of the reason we might feel that we don't want to take time off, or we don't want to walk away, or we don't want to take that vacation is because we don't want our bosses to think we're not committed, to think we're not lazy. There is a very real fear around job security and being easily replaced, despite the fact that the economy is looking way better than it has in years. Right? We have seen a total reversal when it comes to job, like astronomical job loss to job growth where we are right now in this economy. And yes, I know that there are people who are way better qualified than I am to talk about the economy and whose interests are to make it sound catastrophic also. I think our political climate has an interest in making it sound like our economy isn't doing as well as it is right now. But that's how we fall into this martyrdom trap. That's how we start putting ourselves on the sacrificial chopping block and refuse to actually take advantage of the vacations we are warranting of, or we are deserving of, that we are entitled to. This is the silver lining on this one. First of all, vacation is expected. Yes, even in the United States, in this crazy time we find ourselves in, and yes, even in this burnout work culture, vacation is a part of what bosses and HR departments are there for. That's what they know is coming. We prepare for this stuff. It is expected. But just like preparing for your salary negotiation, something I'm going to talk a lot more about this time next week, I should say, just like your salary negotiation, nobody's going to roll out the red carpet for you, boss. Nobody's going to say, oh, hello, Emily. It's May now, or it's April now. We are thinking about the summer. Would you like to tell me when you'd like to take a vacation? No one is probably going to say that to you, even though that is something I've actually talked to my own team about right now. And I've said, plan your vacations. Let me know when you're happening so we can make sure we're not overlapping too much. But most likely, no one's going to roll out the vacation red carpet. You need to be the one to instigate that conversation, to own your worth and go in feeling powerful and get clear on what you are entitled to in your benefit package, and assert yourself without apology. That's something we work on tremendously at Bossed Up Boot Camp. So if that's something you need work on or you want to work with me on, join me at Bossed Up Boot Camp, which you can learn more about on our website. You don't need to necessarily even call it a vacation. You don't need to say to your boss, hey, I'm going to the tropics. I want to go drink by the pool all afternoon, so I'm going to leave, and I'm definitely not going to check my email. You don't necessarily need to broadcast it. You can say, hey, I'm looking ahead. I want to give you a heads up. I'm going to be taking some leave in late August. Here are the dates I'm thinking. I just want to make sure that that works for you. How do I go about putting in that request? asking the question with only the person who's actually in charge of you, right? Or if there's such a person, making sure that we're not necessarily broadcasting it to our whole team. You don't have to do that, but you do want to give as much advanced notice as possible to be respectful and to show that you're a leader. And finally, when preparing to leave, when preparing for your actual vacation, show the boss that you're a leader, that you're a responsible person who knows how to manage their team by saying, obviously, I'm going to prepare for my leave in the following ways. Here's how I've set up this foolproof system. Here's the backup plan if this doesn't work. Here's who you can talk to in my absence. I am out of pocket. I am offline, right? That is how you set yourself up for a real vacation, knowing that the work's going to go on without you, knowing that life is not going to fall apart. And hey, for all my entrepreneurship bosses out there who have taken the reins as their own boss at work, who have created their own system for hustling, just because you don't have an HR department doesn't mean you don't need to invest in your personal sustainability. You decide what kind of company you want to have. You decide what kind of a job you want to have. And yes, you decide what kind of work-life balance will be involved there. Make it count. The ways to really invest in a vacation that will fuel you and will leave you feeling recharged and renewed and not exhausted like anyone who's ever taken a child through Disney World or Disneyland feels. Here are some of the key ways to make your summer vacation count. 1, make it easy. Make it something you are really going to look forward to. Make it a community endeavor. This goes back to the core components of burnout. You want to make sure this isn't something you're going to feel lonely or necessarily. It depends on what your personal preference is, but doing it with the people you love or with a community of women or people like us who are going to support you or are going to be like-minded can make it that much more of a transformational weekend, not just a vacation, right? This turns it into something greater than yourself, greater than to the place you're going to explore. It becomes a new community growth opportunity. And make it something you'll remember for years to come. I'm not just saying this to be nice. I'm not just saying this because I want you to obviously take a good vacation, but these are the ways that you can boost the benefits that come from said vacation. Because if we set up ourselves to fail, if we take a vacation that we're not going to like, that we don't feel aligned with, it doesn't reflect our values, if we, sell ourselves short on what we think we deserve, we're going to come back from that vacation feeling bitter instead of feeling renewed. So make your vacation, whatever it is, count. And really consider what is not taking a break costing you. Because yeah, it does take time and effort and energy and resources to invest in sustainable success, to invest in taking a real life-changing break. But not taking a break can have hidden costs around health, your relationships, and yes, your productivity. When we don't ever take a break, we increase our risk of burnout, period. So think about what is not taking a break actually costing you. And yes, y'all, you've been waiting for this, I know. We have made it easy. Here at Boston Up, we have built a company around helping you craft a sustainable career path. And we've made it our mission to create flawless trainings, events, and opportunities in which you're going to get way more value than you expected and that you paid for, right? That is always our intention, is to go above and beyond, exceeding your expectations to help you live a life that you will love. And that's why I am so excited to roll out formally this new adventure we're all taking together this August 18th through the 21st, the Boston Up 2016 retreat to Costa Rica. That's the URL down there, bostup.com/retreat. You can also just click on the big word retreat above you at the top menu of our website where you can get more details. I want to run through some of the specifics. Why did we create this for you? It is a weekend escape with boss women I know you're going to love. And that doesn't mean everyone's an entrepreneur. In fact, like 50% of us are not entrepreneurs. By bossed up woman, I mean a woman who is ambitious and unfreaking apologetic about it. And that's what I think makes this community just so rich and so dynamic. We are fellow ambitionistas that you're going to be kicking back with in Costa Rica for a weekend that's focused on helping you renew, rest, and recharge in advance of the fall. We're going to an all-inclusive luxury resort and providing opportunities for incredible, life-changing, sort of once-in-a-lifetime type adventures to get your body moving and to get your heart and mind in sync. And before you leave, we're going to make sure that you have new tools in your toolbox to bring La Pura Vida, that whole idea of the Costa Rican way of life, back to your daily life. So here's the type A planners out there. You're going to want to know these details. We haven't even published them to the webpage yet. We're getting them up there with lots of more one-sheeters. More details are going to be added over the next 12 hours. So by the time tomorrow afternoon rolls around, you will have lots more details as well. But the resort we're going to is Rio Guanacaste, which is a 5-star luxury resort that is all-inclusive, that it's super highly rated on things like TripAdvisor. It's got thousands of ratings. It's got a beachfront property surrounded by mountains. This is a picture of the pool area. And yes, that is a poolside bar that serves endless drinks. You'll get drinks, snacks, and meals all included if you come with us, bossed up, with tons of options for each and every one of us. I'm a vegan now, so even I will be able to eat down there, even with my crazy, eating habits and things that are going on there. We've got something for everyone, and they make it so easy. Their staff has been so professional, and they've given us some really incredible group rates and insider discounts that are going to make your experience there with us better than any you could get anywhere else. So here's a little bit of a preview of the schedule to come. There's a lot more in here we're not telling you right now because we've got some surprises we're still planning for you. Thursday afternoon, that's, what is that, August 18th. You're going to fly in. We're going to shuttle you from the airport all the way to the resort. For check-in, you're going to grab that swag bag that we are putting together for you with lots of surprises, and then get yourself comfortable, get into the vacation mode, put your phone on silent, get that out-of-office reply on, and you are headed to the welcome reception for the evening with a keynote all about setting your intentions for rest and renewal. Friday, we'll always have sunrise yoga to start with oceanfront views to boot. That's always something that we're going to have available to you every morning, hopefully morning, afternoon, and evening too, which is something we're going to get more information on for you soon. We'll have tons of off-site excursions for you to choose from, for you to sign up for. I'm going to tell you more about that in a second because that's what all day Friday and Saturday are going to include. Friday night, we're going to wrap up with a poolside happy hour, and after dinner at any one of the restaurants and options and bars that you have to choose from on the resort, we're going to get back together for a Plaza Bar late night party to see Friday night through. Saturday, for those of you who want to start your day with sunrise yoga, you can absolutely take advantage of that again as usual. After breakfast, you'll have lots more off-site excursions to take advantage of. We want to make sure you see the sights, that you see what's going on. And guess what? If that's not your thing, if you would rather get your nails did and sit by the pool and have a mojito every hour on the hour, guess what, boss? You can do that too. So there is something really for everyone, and the off-site experiences are going to be so amazing. The spa that they have on site there is really incredible too. Those spa services are not included in our package deal, but I just want you to know that you have the option there. Saturday night is going to be our absolute pinnacle sort of kickoff of sort of highlight, I should say, of the entire weekend with a gala that we're going to have together, and we're going to put on our best, and we're going to have this incredible dance party Saturday night that I'm so excited to celebrate with you and just championing the kick-ass women there. We've got some surprises up our sleeve. Sunday, we'll wrap again. We'll have a farewell brunch, finalize with some breakout exercises for bringing La Pura Vida home with you, and really a little bit of training and exercises all about how we can bring home that sustainability, that sense of wellness and health and personal renewal back to our everyday. Now, the excursions that we have options that they're offering right now is a growing list, actually. So right now they include hiking and biking trails. We'll have guided tours that we can take you on, sailing and snorkeling, zip lining, mountainside horseback riding, surf lessons, and more. The list grows on. We're going to make sure that everyone who registers has a choice, has a say in exactly what the weekend entails, and you'll have a chance to sign up for any and all of the offsite excursions that you want. Now listen, obviously the Bossed Up Retreat is not right for everybody, but the question is, does this sound like you? Because if this sounds like you, then this is the right vacation that I want to make a priority for you, and I want to make as easy as possible for you to say hell yes to. If you work hard, it's time you let us work hard for you. If you put others first, the Bossed Up Retreat is our time to put you first, boss. This is our time to say, you deserve some R&R. You deserve to put your feet up. You deserve to really renew, reflect, get clear on the life that you would love. If you are the kind of person who invests in your career, who invests in yourself, now's the time to invest in your sustainability. And this one's important. If you are the kind of woman who champions other badass women, this is the retreat for you. Come join us if you want to work hard and play hard. Now, let's talk about the fine print. We've bundled all of these experiences together to keep things super, super simple. And the shared room experience, which means we'll pair you with a roommate who comes in through Bossed Up's community. And yes, we'll have a survey so that we can make sure we're pairing people with comparable room lifestyle preferences. But if you want to make friends with some Bossed Up ladies and have a shared room, whether it's with a friend you already know, or we'll match you through our housing lottery, that costs $1,899, so $1,899 for the entire weekend. And the solo room experience is $20.99. I'm sorry, I think that's actually a typo, $21.99. But guess what, boss? Because you are in this webinar right now, because you are here with me, as soon as we wrap tonight, we are updating those buttons at bossedup.com/retreat to make this discount available to you through Friday. We are slicing these prices by $300 so that you can make this work and get a benefit, get that discount, insider sort of discount right now to thank you for your early bird, gung-ho, be the pioneer, get in on this while the getting's good, get in on the ground floor, and we're going to slice that price for you to $15.99 for the entire weekend to share a room, or $18.99 for your solo room. What's included? Everything you see on that list. The only thing that's not included is your flight, your passport, which you're going to need, ladies, so get that stuff organized, and any bonus spa experiences you want to add on. There's already a sauna and the pool and the jacuzzi's there for you if it's included, but if you want to get your nails done or get a massage, any of those bonus sort of spa experiences, that is on top of that all. But everything else is included, and I am so, so excited to put this experience together for our community. Why did we do this? Because work-life balance is a choice. And we here at Bossed Up, I want to make this a really easy choice. Keep in mind, I want you to make it count. If this isn't the right one for you, take that staycation anyway. Make other plans. I want you to be the boss of your life, and I want you to get a vacation in this year because it is good for you. And always know that you have a choice. If you're hearing I can't in your head just over and over and over again, I want you to push back on that and ask yourself why. I know that when I felt burnt out, I was full of I can'ts. You know, I can't leave, I can't change, I can't make more, I can't, you know, spend time on myself. I just can't. That's for other people. I can't do that. That's not possible right now. And that kind of thinking meant that I wouldn't even start figuring out, well, if I did, how could I make this work? I shut myself down before I even started strategizing. If you're hearing I can't in your head right now, I want you to ask why. Where did that come from? Is that real, or is it a fear based on something in your past, based on something that, you know, someone else told you, that your mom told you, that your friends tell you, whatever it is? I want you to push back on that and ask why. Where is that coming from? And I want you to remember this. If you take nothing else away from tonight, that you deserve, yes, a vacation. That is not a luxury. You freaking deserve it, boss. And know that you deserve it. And whatever that vacation looks like for you tonight, take out your calendar, open it up right now, and make this a priority. I hope you'll consider joining me in Costa Rica. Victoria and I are so excited for this luxury weekend escape that we've put together for you. We have so many more surprises up our sleeve. I can't even tell you. I'm so excited about it. And now I want to open it up for questions. If you have any questions about anything we've discussed already this evening, now's the time to lay them on me, boss. So Victoria and I are standing by. I know we still got a bunch of y'all viewing tonight's webinar. You're the insiders. You're the early birds. What questions do you have about the Boston retreat? Is there anything else we can answer for you right now? I know I just gave you a ton of information. Hopefully I gave you way more than you were expecting to get out of tonight. But if you take nothing else from this, I want to make sure you remember to make a vacation a priority this summer, because that is the #1 most hidden, rarely talked about, but often taken advantage of ways to invest in your sustainable success right now. So Victoria, are you getting some questions in, or are we good? I know we got a lot of comments. We got a lot of thank yous, a lot of awesome people tweeting out awesome things. Thank you so much, Stephanie, Gabriella. We're good? All right, y'all, if you have any other logistical questions, any questions at all about the retreat or about investing in your work-life balance right now, keep in touch with me. I'm on Twitter. I will be checking. I will be tuning in with you, if not tonight, which I'll continue to check for a little while. Then I'm headed to bed. I will check first thing in the morning as well. I'm going to send you an email so you can replay this webinar if you want to get more information or review something we covered this evening. And either way, we're going to make sure that you have access to that insider-only Bossed Up 2016 retreat discount through this Friday. So make it happen. Do what you got to do. Talk to your boss. Put in a request for that leave. And join us in Costa Rica, boss. I guarantee you won't regret it. Thank you so much for tuning in with me and for spending your Tuesday evening with us at Bossed Up. I hope that, that you will take advantage of this, join us, make vacation a priority this year, and I hope to see you again real soon. Thanks, everyone. Keep bossing. Talk to you soon.